Do you smell that? It's ash. Because we're going to Muspelheim, an Ash World map by Veek7. And in this particular matchup, we are going to be looking at Toyota Miguel in the bottom left as the... Maroon Terran? Oh, it's always the wrong one. I always guess maroon when it's blood and blood when it's maroon. And then we have DeadInfested up here in the top right as the... Aw, man, I'm not going to guess any colors correctly today. This is not Dark Spring Green, because Dark Spring Green is a little bit darker than this. But it's also not Vine Green, because Vine Green's a bit brighter than this. And it's not Russian Green, because nobody gets Russian Green, dude. That's basically a banned color, I think. I guess I'll say Dark Spring Green. Oh my god, I was right! Even though I said I was wrong. I'm always right when I'm wrong, and wrong when I'm right. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying Cosmonarchy. Man, if you have no idea what Cosmonarchy is about, you were really confused why I was struggling over the colors. We got over 100 player colors. You can select them in your config. Mind you, you can't do that in like scenarios, like campaign missions and stuff, because there's a pre-selected like a color for that on the per map basis. But anyway, this is competitive, so you can do that. I actually don't know if Toyota or DeadInfested have done that. I know DeadInfested, I think he said that he went for a bunch of greens. And he was actually talking about like typo negative green or something like that recently. I don't think we have the ability to add that because of the palette in StarCraft 1, but still a pretty cool idea. Anyway, we do have a single man on gas for Toyota. He's actually gone for a stockade opener though. So what I've seen is that you go 5 masons on minerals and then 1 mason on gas early on, and that actually gives you access to enough resources to build the early, what do you call it? Not even close, dude. But it gives you the early resources to drop a Fulcrum as the opener, which a lot of players have been doing lately. That being said, Fulcrum is going to come later for Toyota. He is a believer in the stockade into Fulcrum. I believe in this build very, very much. I love early Hurricanes. I think you basically do what Toyota is doing, actually. You get the early Mavericks. You pump up the sort of ranged DPS count. That's going to stop like the first unit that Protoss sends over from doing too much damage. We do see that it is a Drakodin with a Drakodin follow-up and a second gate on the way for DeadInfested. And now that you've got all of that stuff taken care of, one of the things that you have access to is easy access to Hurricanes. You can also add another stockade and then go Cleric healing. You know, you drop the Vestry add-on. We get the healing, and that healing obviously affects mech units as well. So I think around 4 to 5 Mesa or Mavericks is usually where I would recommend switching into Hurricanes, because Hurricanes actually move faster than Mavericks, unless the Mavericks are stimmed, of course. And then you basically can move across the map and start heckling him. I don't know why that guy was on a solo adventure, but it looks like this Drakodin might end up getting away. Toyota's going to invest a lot of APM into trying to fix it by shooting it. You can shoot things to fix it in Cosmonarchy. Just ask the clerics. Ooh, very, very close to killing it. He's going to go ahead and stim after it, but is he really? No, he's not. He's actually just... He's flubbed this. He's flubbed this very hard. He's got 600 minerals in the bank. He has not actually spent too much money on much, so he's going to go ahead and drop a Ministry. Back at home, he doesn't really have that many units is the problem, right? I feel like he's kind of hemorrhaged out a little bit of opportunity here. Dropping an Anchor, and another Maverick goes down. This is actually pretty deadly, because you are talking about having 3 Drakodins here. This could be a very fast game 1. The Vulture comes out. You need to lay those mines. You do have 3 of them now, so for a while in Cosmonarchy you only had 2. But you can see here, going after the Mason, making that Anchor, that might actually be a total disaster. That being said, the mine does end up going down, and you know what? It's going to go for the stun. Now that Anchor is going to go ahead and finish. I'd love to see these Mavericks get into there, but it doesn't actually look like too many of them did get in. So, you know, it's a rough spot here for Toyota, who has gotten his emergency Anchor down, but he is going to have to cancel that second one. And he's probably going to want to lift that Anchor up top. The Mason has been gunned down. That was actually the same one that got heckled earlier from the Worker, which is kind of funny. And yeah, what is Toyota going to do? He's very far behind. Is he ever going to extricate the Protoss from his base area? That's an open question right now. He really desperately does need more military production, right? You can see the Drakodin's just kind of shrugging off that attack up the ramp. Now there's 5 of them in your base. Yeah, you're going to cancel that one. No Lodestone coming for the Ministry. Love to see that at some point. You can see he does get a mine down, but he really needs to put that Vulture in the Anchor. Doesn't end up doing it. Doesn't even get that Maverick in the Anchor. And this other one not actually finished right now. So let's see what we can do. We do need to finish that and then repair the other one, because it's about to go down. Oh, he cancels the one that was just about to finish. From bad to worse here for Toyota, as things have really gone off a cliff for him. DeadInfested behind this is taking a Nexus, halfway done. The Ministry has not actually landed yet. The first Huracan does storm onto the field, but there are already 7 Drakodins Dragons, dude. I don't know what you're going to do with one Ahmed. GG is going to be called in that. Again, I think that really illustrates very nicely, actually, what you do with those Mavericks. You can try to move across the map. In fact, I think with 5 Mavericks, which is, again, I would expect to stop around 4. Not that this is a hard and fast rule. We're still figuring out all the build orders, dude. We have no idea what the early game can actually look like at a high skill level yet. We're still figuring all of that out. But I would speculate, and from my own games, I have been grinding a lot more lately, I think you stop at 4 Mavericks, you go into Hurricanes, and then you are also transitioning into that Vulture squad that Toyota was supposed to be making, but kind of floated all that money in the early game. TVP not exactly the most forgiving when your opponent is on 2 gates, and I don't actually think that the Masons stuck around long enough to confirm the second gate. I'm not 100% sure about that, but if you do get that intel, that's also very important for scouting and knowing what you're up against. This is pretty much just a textbook like A move on the Protoss' side. He probably could have even punched through even harder than that. But I do think that a lot of that came down to just not spending the money in that early skirmish with the 4 Mavericks in the Dracodon. I say 4 because one of them wasn't really engaged. And I would also say that like you probably want those Hurricanes earlier on. Anyway, we do have another match on Muspelheim. Let's get straight into it. All right, we are getting into things here with the same spawns as before. DeadInfested once again rocking. This time I think he actually is Vine Green. Look at that. Look at that. And then I guess we've got a spectator here. Oh yeah, I got a couple spectators here. Dog with a Pizza, that's Smarty Cakes, and Top Ramen as another spectator here. Meanwhile, we do have Toyota Miguel in the bottom left. I'm going to guess this is not Ultramarine. This isn't Platinum Blue because Platinum Blue is actually brighter, but is this Cosmic Cobalt? No, it's Dark Sapphire. Man, those two colors are also very similar. All right, well, we've guessed DeadInfested's color correct each time, and we've failed Toyota's color each time. We'll see if that continues as the series progresses. Will this be another very aggressive opener from both players, where Toyota is going to go for that Stockade opener, try to see what he can do with Mavericks, and see how well off he can be. He is going to go ahead and bank up enough gas for the Fulcrum pretty early on. I do think his build order probably doesn't actually need to have the gas worker this early if you're not going to be going the Fulcrum opener early. That's my personal read on the situation. Worker's doing a little bit of a dive, taking a dive. PayPal has been checked. By the way, we use PayPal technically to pay out tournament prize pools. So if you're signed up for the tournament, make sure that you have signed up for a PayPal account. And if you don't have a PayPal account, let me know what alternatives we can maybe do, because I do have money that I will be sending to people who win games in Acropolis number 2. And actually, these two players would have clashed in Acropolis number 2 had the seeding stayed the same as how I had thought previously. But the seeding is a bit different now because a couple of players have signed up. We actually have 30 members in the Gauntlet. Dude, is this just a carbon copy of the previous game? What's going on here? No, actually, he's... I don't know what just happened. Actually, he pulled his Maverick away from the Scribe instead of attacking the Scribe. He stemmed the Maverick and then pulled it away. And yeah, DeadInfested is even going to go ahead and tickle one of the other ones. You think about the mathematics of this, right? He's going Dracodon opener. He's got a second gate. And, you think about 15 damage per Dracodon hit. We don't have, like, army sizes or unit sizes in this idea. Like, there's nothing like that in the game, right? So it's just, like, armor and armor pen. It's a pretty simplified damage system, actually. And so 15 damage is guaranteed onto the Maverick. And so you're thinking about the Maverick, well, if it has 45 or less HP, it's only 3 hits, right? So I do like that overall. I think that's actually... a good move in the case of the Scribe to actually put some damage onto those Mavericks. If you put one attack onto them, they take a one less shot from the Dracodon to kill. So, I'm sure DeadInfested, he watches Artosis, and he knows that Artosis has said that kind of stuff about StarCraft 1. So it does not surprise me whatsoever that something like that is happening over here. Now, we do see better and steadier production of Mavericks throughout this whole time for Toyota. He's even put down his Ministry very, very early on, and the Fulcrum is now done as well. So he hasn't needed to go into the Anchor. He's elected to expand onto the high ground and then lift the Ministry later on, which is just a fine choice. He does need to make sure that he can secure his choke point, though. And you know what? He's having a little bit of a good opportunity here. Easier time than maybe you would expect. DeadInfested braving the waters, I would say maybe a little bit preemptively here. If the stim had happened a bit sooner and he had just right-clicked the same Dracodon, he actually would have just straight up killed it. Like, the shields are more... they have a much more ratio now, leaning more towards the shields than the HP than they did before. Before, the Dracodon had 60 shields, or 40 shields maybe? Now they have 80 shields, right? So they did lose 20 HP for that, but it's still a plus 20 durability buff the whole time. And so anyway, I'm pointing that out just because I wanted to say, like, you gotta watch out for your Dracodons in the early stages of the game. Now, we do have 4 of them now, a 5th one on the way. We will end up seeing DeadInfested take his expansion. And charging up the ramp, I mean, you saw the Vulture Mines being laid there. You knew that was going to happen. A little bit of a mixed targeting there from DeadInfested. He's not having the best of times of it. And only losing 1 Vulture, 1 Maverick. Meanwhile, you're, I guess you are putting a lot of damage onto your units with the stim. But killing 2 Dracodons for that, that's always going to be worth it for the Terran player. You can see this Vulture trying to get its mines down, and the Ministry is now complete. Meanwhile, we do have a Palladium and a Vestry add-on, a Stockade and a Fulcrum being made again, round 2, and lifting off the Ministry and the Anchor with the intention of charging forward with the Force. Look at that. Eating that stun, you know, you just want 1 unit to hit that. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Toyota has the unit control to do so. He's even going to get his Ministry landing spot blocked. He doesn't need to be so coy. He can actually take this fight. He just doesn't have enough faith in himself. We'd love to see him just go straight for the Mavericks, but it looks like he wants to wait for the Phalanx to come out. Very Brood War-esque, actually, with the Nexus about to finish up. The fact that the Ministry's been in the air this whole time instead of building Masons, right? That would actually be a really good use of it, because if you have your Ministry and you can't actually land at your natural, or so you feel, then at the very least you just make workers with it, and then you're actually ahead, up workers on your opponent by the end of it, right? But that's not actually what we see here. Scrapyard coming up as the add-on for this Fulcrum. That's an interesting choice. Meanwhile, we do have a Shaman coming out. There is already a Cleric in the wings, and the Phalanx is going to go ahead and deploy, dropping an initial shot and immediately leading to the death of one of the Dracodons. They even bunk up afterwards. I don't know about that one, DeadInfested. You might want to consider leaving, but he wants to be as annoying as possible, it looks like. And so, you know what? That's fine. I mean, it's not actually too punishing for him to sustain these hits while the Phalanx count is kind of low. That being said, I'm still a little bit nervous here for Toyota. He hasn't been able to actually set up his expansion. Sure, DeadInfested has been a little bit slow on actually saturating that base, but he has it, and the Ardent Authority is almost complete. So it looks like, there's a couple of things that this could go for. Ardent could mean Architects, and DeadInfested could be running that. Another thing that it could be is an Acantor drop. We'll know that based on if there's an embassy that gets put down. That's the Forge graphic. The embassy allows you to train the Envoy, formerly Shuttle, a Witness, formerly Observer, and a new unit called the Artisan that returns resources just by harvesting them. Doesn't even need the Nexus. It's very cool, very epic. Toyota is a big fan of that mechanic. Wink. He totally didn't make one of those schizo memes about it. Unfortunately, he's having a bit of army control troubles. WTF, he says. I agree. And you know what? He is splattering some of these forces and trading out just a couple of Mavericks and a Huracan for that benefit there. Some damage onto the Anchor, but all is well. He's just going to send 1 repairman over. Not very steady worker production. He is down by almost 10 workers right now, so definitely needs to work on that, I would say. Worker on that. That would definitely go a long way towards improving his situation. Double Ardent, and it does look like it will be an Architect-focused build order. I believe this is before the Architects got adjusted. Recently, the Architects lost 1 range, but gained the ability to split their missiles multiple times. So, you know, it's a kind of an interesting, more positional trade-off. I like that. I like what DeadInfested just did there. He literally just sacrificed 1 low HP Dracodon to clear out that mine, and also, in exchange, get a little bit of power there. But, you know, he's stopping the minefield from growing and, you know, getting too far out is actually a good thing. Now, that being said, I don't know if you wanted to sacrifice your Dracodon for that, but if you thought it was already going to be dead, it's not a terrible idea. We do have another Ministry coming up, so Toyota keeping a tempo on in terms of expansion timings, but so too is DeadInfested taking his 3rd base. He has 1 Architect already out on the field. Back over here, he's kind of doing some heckling with the Dracodons. I do like this opportunity. There is only 1 Phalanx moving out with this army, even though there's a total of 3 available for Toyota. A couple Cyprians, of course the Blackjacks. Going to be pretty adept at slapping these units down. If you guys don't know about the Blackjack, so the Blackjack previously had a passive and still has the same passive called Wear and Tear. And basically it meant that it moved slower and had less attack speed, the more damage it took. However, what a recent change to that made it so that as long as they are above 50% health, they do not have any penalty, and the penalty comes in all at once when they have less than half health. Oh my god, DeadInfested just sacrificed his 1st Architect. Wow, that was a bit of a foible. And I wonder if it was just because this 1 Maverick came in and scouted that Nexus. Was that really the break in concentration? That's a pretty big flub there. Toyota going to go ahead and maybe see if he can push across the map. Remember, he's very... not very defended right now at home, so he's kind of counting on his ability to get across the map, and you can see these Dracodons on the cliff, they're benefiting from that +2 weapon range that they get when they're shooting down a cliff. eventually we are going to need to invest in, putting an alternative model for the Blackjack that makes it look, wrecked and ruined, etc., and switching to that when it takes a certain amount of damage. The Blackjacks by themselves are not very good versus this amount. I mean, they're very outnumbered as well, so not very good. The Cyprian somehow stays alive in that engagement. I'm not really sure, but it looks like Toyota looked away so that he could set up his third base, and he's already starting to work on the Iron Foundry over here. He's gotten almost halfway through it. That's going to lead to a safe back base, which it looks like he's going to take as his fourth. If the game gets that long, though, we do have another engagement here. The Harakan's charging forward. More Drakidans here. It's just straight up Drakidan Architect right now. And the Phalanxes were not deployed. Most of them not even here. He's actually attacked his own one a little bit there. That's also not ideal. And yeah, he's having a hard time of it. I know the man, the myth, the legend, Toyota Miguel, named himself a Spanish name, even though he's Polish. Shout it out. Polish powerhouse. I know that he's been struggling to learn all the changes and obviously the new eco and stuff, but I do have to hand it to him, man. Like, this man won his underclass group, and he's obviously not a top player, just like I would say that, like, overall DeadInfested has been grinding a lot, and he might actually get to the point where he can be considered a top player. I wouldn't put it past him, but this is like DeadInfested's kind of king of the castle when it comes to those up-and-comers, right? But in the past, we might have said that about 3 Crow or Biddy Bee. DeadInfested, Smarty Cakes, these guys have been grinding out a lot more, so I have to hand it to them. 4 gateways coming up, and of course, the double Ardent production continuing. We do have a random watchdog being set down in the middle of the map, but it doesn't actually look like DeadInfested wants to mess around with that. This army is actually kind of scary from the Terran. It just needs to actually be deployed in such a fashion that it can contest with this, right? And this is a very vulnerable sort of slice of the Protoss army, while the Phalanx is all the way back up here, trying to clean house, along with some reinforcements to clear out some of these Drakidans. It looks like they will end up consolidating. Not any of the Architects went down. That's a pretty big issue right now for the Terran. It does feel like we need to see more Phalanxes at some point. 1,000 minerals in the bank of both kinds for Toyota. He's not going for tier 2 just yet. He is adding a couple ant seals here, courtesy of his star pad. And he's making a decent amount of, blackjacks. That's really what he's sort of hitching his wagon to, so to speak. Another ministry going down here. The Iron Foundry did get destroyed by that blackjack. Can't believe it. Voice acted by the Beaver, by the way. Shout out to the Beaver 99. DeadInfested finding it a hard sell to actually spend all of his minerals. Probably wants like a Crucible and then a bunch more gateways or something. But he's just going to go ahead and take a 4th base in the bottom right. Love to see that little tempo there. Now, this Phalanx is not going to be long for this world up in the front. It's kind of unprotected in that way. Architects are obviously going to split towards it anyway. You can see all of those split attacks are starting to really come into play. Really got to watch out for that one. And yeah, just in case you guys were curious, the Architect does indeed have 10 weapon range on this instead of 9. So this is pre-changes to them. They are absolutely harrowing for the Terran arsenal to deal with. But hey, that's where you might have a lot of ant seals. Obviously, if you sustain damage, you can use shamans for that as well, or clerics. But as of right now, it does look like the Protoss army might end up just running through here. We do have a couple of Harakans that will help out massively versus the Zealots, but the ant seal is only singular right now, and some of these units weren't actually attacking on top of it all. So yeah, the Blackjacks are going to get absolutely eaten alive here. And it looks to me like DeadInfested is moments away from breaking the army and pushing on through for a fast 2-0 start to this set. That being said, you never know what might end up happening. Toyota was very proud of something in this series. I don't know if it's because he took DeadInfested close or if it was because he actually took a game. But overall, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the grind of the Terran arsenal, them trying to make sure that they can do something. This cliff advantage could be the spoke that Toyota needs to actually smash these Architects down with the Phalanxes, but he needs to deploy them, and he's not doing so until maybe it's too late. You can see him targeting the Architects at the very least. That's good targeting. Another shot's going to go down. Maybe he can get one more shot off, but he's not even focusing onto that wounded Architect, and there's 7 of the bad boys now. He just doesn't have enough Phalanx production, it feels like. Meanwhile, there is an Argosy coming online for DeadInfested. He's starting to switch into Positron production, which reads to me as, I have so much money, I just need to spend it. But, I'm not sure. Maybe he's worried about an air switch or something. That is actually a genuine concern, because, of course, Architects can only attack ground units. That being said, though, the Masons are being pulled, the boys are being taken off the line, and, well, I guess it's better to die on your feet than to die mining resources for another man. I think some union boss told me that once or something. But yeah, as of right now, it's not looking too hot. DeadInfested about to clear out the 3rd base. Toyota simply doesn't have enough phalanxes. I think that was a missing linchpin of his army. He also had so much money. Just look at his cash flow right now. Like, the man is loaded. He could absolutely spend a lot more of that money. I'm actually looking around to see if, like, maybe I see a bunch of idle masons and think, oh, maybe the replay broke, because this is ridiculous amounts of cash right now that he hasn't been able to spend. But instead, we have a Solarian on the way. 4th base operational. The Watchdog actually scouting that, funnily enough. Let's see what Mr. DeadInfested wants to do. He's switching off some of his workers onto the gas, and he's sharking back inward with his army to hit that extra base. Yeah, I think if Toyota had hit tier 2 and gone straight into like heavy air, like Wyverns, Gorgons, etc., that could have supplemented his ground game if he had kept the phalanx production up. And then I think he honestly would have had a really good chance versus things like the Architects. But as it is right now, not quite working out for him. He is going to end up losing out just about everything. The Atlas was being made in the natural. Nebline smiles upon Mr. Toyota as he GG's, and DeadInfested claims another. Well, it's the same victim, but another victory in that situation. So pretty cool stuff there. You know what? I'm very perplexed. I'm very surprised. The Muspelheim games so far have been obviously favored towards the Protoss, but we've got 2 more replays to watch after this, and I hope that Toyota will be able to show us something a little bit brighter. Thanks for joining us for this TVP. Obviously, the game has changed a lot, even a little, well, many things about the game have changed since this cast. For example, a lot of Protoss units got a little bit more expensive in terms of time cost, so it takes longer to get them operational. Meanwhile, a lot of the Terran arsenal actually got a little bit cheaper in terms of time cost, so that's kind of neat. Like Goliaths, Phalanxes, Madrigals, Eidolons all take less training time now. And it's essentially a push to make it so that since Terran has to invest more money in infrastructure, they should have a bit higher throughput in terms of being able to use that versus the Protoss that have to invest less in the early tier units like gateways and stuff, and even grand libraries. And so I think that will anyway just sort of nudge it in the right direction, hopefully, for the matchup overall. Also, Zephyr cores only cost 25 minerals, so join me in welcoming the Swarm patch. But otherwise, stay tuned. Acropolis 2 is kicking off, and once we get locked into that Gauntlet patch, we ain't letting up unless there's some bug fixes to be done. So I hope you'll join me for those tournament games when they get cast, which should be early next week. And otherwise, stay tuned for more games leading up to it, where we profile some of the players that you might not see that many games from, or you might not have seen that many games so far. In that way, that's exactly what DeadInfested versus Toyota Miguel is all about, and we'll have a couple more of them like that very soon. GG.